And we're live, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast with legendary strength coach, according to many different outlets of different reputations.
Of outlettery,
Of
yes.
outlettery. Good to see you, Dan. How's your week of training and all that good stuff been?
I gotta
For
tell
some
you,
reason I thought you
it's
were traveling this week, but clearly I'm confused. Yeah.
no, I travel next week. Yeah, but yeah, good training. Had a weird thing happen last week. And folks, I got to tell you, it's weird what can impact your workouts. For whatever reason, we lost my professional email account.
Oh.
It just, I've been we're doing the same thing for, almost 15, 20 years. And the company I use is like, yeah, you're not good enough anymore. So,
Oh, that's a super bummer. Sorry to hear that.
yeah, so having to reboot an account that's been around that long. So I lost a whole bunch of, receipts and, workshops and, emails and
Yeah, that's a huge pain.
yeah. And so I had to rebuild it a little bit, but it's back up, but it's not like it was. And I hope any gentle listener who sent anything lovingly, like, a check for $1 million, I didn't get it, but hey, training's good. Had a really good front squat workout yesterday. I'm nudging my loads up a little bit on those, and practice was amazing yesterday. My javelin thrower, she had a couple of throws yesterday that it just shows you. I got to tell you, folks, this thing I invented. I call it practice. It's where you come a couple days a week and you do
and you work on something. Yeah.
Yeah, and then okay. Oh, just get ready for this one. This is an article. You get better, and I got to tell you, it's fun. There's nothing, as much as I love watching the discus fly, there's something special about watching the javelin as it almost seems to, as it takes off, it kind of almost breaks the rules.
It's just something cool about just throwing things, it will always be fun just to throw things, right?
Yeah, and we really are having a beautiful, I think this is our first real snowstorm. Yeah, it is snowing. It's snowing right out there right now, and I don't know how well you guys can you even see that? Can you see that?
Oh yeah, it's like a winter wonderland out there, Dan. How nice!
And it just started. We went from that rain to snow, which is weird because you would think it would. It got cold enough after the sun came up. So here we go, man.
Here we go. It's that time of year, I suppose. Yeah.
So, I don't mind. We are struggling in my beloved state of Utah. We keep building and building and building and building without any thought of, the future. I mean, just even in my area.
Yeah, ours is getting super overdeveloped out here too. Yeah,
but we're not getting water, and we live in this thing called a desert. And I got to tell you, one of the keys, geography minor, I don't want to show off too much, but lack of water is kind of part of what a desert is all about. Don't want to overstate my situation.
Dropping some big old knowledge bombs this morning.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, folks, the difference between dessert and desert is more than just an S. That's this week's thought bomb. Okay, I just want you to spend time with that.
That's good.
Hey, how about you? How you throwing weights over you throwing new babies over your head or anything?
Yeah, we're doing all the above. So right after our chat, Dan, I'll be taking off to the old YMCA to get the weekly workout in. So that's good. Mom's feeling good, so we're really kind of back into the swing of things here. Obviously with the necessary adjustments of still having a newborn, but yeah, he's doing really well, hitting all the important things babies are supposed to hit, which is not a whole lot. I mean, you just got to get back to your birth weight and
Yeah. Well, I remember. So I was at the Costco. It's a little boutique near my house.
Love their.
And there was a little baby in line, and I looked and I said, well, "When was this guy born?" And she goes, "August 2nd." It was funny because Ellen is August 4th, but Thomas is 6'7". Lindsay was a Division I hammer thrower, so. With Thomas and Lindsay, their babies are huge. Okay.
Gigantic.
And then my daughter Kelly's going to be having Daisy here in a couple of months. And the difference will be Kelly's babies are small. Okay. And it's going to be kind of an interesting contrast as as, as I go through the next 20 years or so with, grandchildren who are almost the exact same age, but, in kind of different orbits around the sun, size wise.
Yeah. That's fun. It's exhausting. Sleep is not optimized right now, but it's wouldn't trade it for anything. Tom says, by the way, many congratulations on child number 3. Yes, indeed.
No, it's 20.
The army is
23.
growing. Yes.
23. Yes. 23.
That's right. Thank you, Tom.
Actually,
we do appreciate it. David says, love me some Costco. I'm going to reach out to headquarters of Costco. I think we've mentioned them enough times that they owe us a little something.
Yeah, a little bit of cha-ching. You're saying.
Yeah, they could at least comp our yearly membership. I actually got my picture retaken at Costco recently, so that was nice. I'll make that my profile picture at some point. Yeah, it was very best picture I've ever taken.
Okay, I'm on roll. My driver's license picture, I look good.
Like, why couldn't this be my prom picture, right? The Costco.
You're effing with me. I'm gonna get in trouble because of this photo because it looks good. It doesn't look like. I want a photo that makes.
Leave it to the lady at the DMV to bring out the best in you, Dan.
Yeah, I want my driver's license photo to make me look like I'm drunk in case I ever get pulled over. No,
this is my normal face. Yeah.
Oh, you're fine. I don't want to be a cat. I look like a damn. Dolce & Gabbana ad there, that's a joke.
It's funny how times I asked the Costco, hey, can I get a couple extra copies of this, but all good. All right, let's start jamming on some questions. Actually, I have a question for you, Dan. What's on the horizon for you training wise? You have any new competitions coming up? Anything?
You know what? It's United States weightlifting went to this new system, and now, communications at best is always, the problem we have in 2024 is that there's so many routes for communications. I would even say we have less communications than we used to. When I was young, we used to get a monthly thing from the I think we weren't region 13. Hell, what region? We might have been region 30, but every month we get a little like, it wasn't even a newsletter. It was like a mimeograph sheet of upcoming weightlifting events and stuff. And it would come to you in the mail, 32-cent stamp or whatever, 50 with $200 stamp, whatever it is. But now since you have Facebook, you got this and you got that and you got this and you got email and you got that, and you got spams, you got this. You just don't get the information in one spot anymore. I'll go to our site and I get more confused than when I started. So right now, my goals are still intact. My body weight is really in a good place, Patrick. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, look great, Daniel. Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm putting up good weights. I'm starting to think that I might have to have a winter Olympic lifting program versus a summer warmer time. I am not giving up the fight against. I'm 67, and that's hard to overcome. It sounds strange, but that's kind of like it's hard to overcome having babies in the house and not getting any sleep for 3 weeks. How do what's that training program you do when you haven't slept in 2 weeks? Remember that one? Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of Navy SEAL something or other, right? Yeah.
Well, but it's always that nonsense. Yeah. But since I do train basically outdoors with my garage gym, I'm thinking my winter months will be a little bit more focused on getting the press and the front squat numbers up. And in the warmer months, snatch and clean and jerk. So now if I go to a meet this time of year, that means I'll probably be a little bit more clean and jerky because that's a little bit easier for me. I'm warmed up, ready to go. It's a simpler move for me anyway. Yeah. So awesome. just a thought process. But
I dig it.
Yeah. So the kettlebell book should be out. The new one should be out like any day now. And you got your pirate map thing, right?
Yeah, we got the pirate map thing. We're promoting that right now. So if people want to check that out, I guess you got to be on my email list because I don't know. Yeah. But you can email me. And then next month I got the book coming out. So
for sure.
Yeah, so busy. Yeah, a lot going on all at once this season. So
good.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Appreciate the mention there. All right, let's take some questions. Here's a kind of we'll take a fun one, a little bit different. David says, do you guys like ice hockey? I rediscovered it recently. Perfect combo of football, physicality, and soccer playing.
Yeah.
What can hockey training teach us for combining endurance, strength, speed, and power? So this is, I wanted to pick this because I never think about hockey. I never watch hockey. But just yesterday, it's very odd. Just yesterday, I watched a video on Wayne Gretzky. Like totally random. Like Wayne Gretzky just popped up, and I'm like, you know what? I've heard this name. I know nothing about this dude, and I just got like stuck. You know, they call him the Great One, or what? I know nothing about him except for what I watched this video. Super fascinating. Like the guy's abilities and like his stats compare. Like he really did seem like a true marvel. So I have almost nothing else to say about hockey. I grew up in Michigan when the Red Wings were like absolutely on fire, so I was surrounded by it. Went to a couple games. I like it when I watch it. I don't go out of my way to watch it. But I'll tell you what, that Wayne Gretzky guy, I'm gonna do a little bit more research into him because I was very fascinated by his career. And the interesting thing is like he didn't seem to have any like outstanding single physical ability, but apparently he really approached his practice. There's that thing you invented, Dan, practice, as trying to optimize team play. And that apparently was the huge difference maker that for the Great One, as it's called. But yeah, your thoughts on hockey.
Well, I just remember being at the Olympic Training Center, and our sports psychologist guy who knew Gretzky was talking about how Gretzky had the ability not to know where the puck was, but where it was going. And I thought I heard that, and it's like, as an American football coach, if I could train my athletes to stop, you have to focus on the ball, the puck, whatever it is. That's the goal. But you have to be mentally a step ahead about where it's going, and that's what I guess Gretzky's great ability was, his triangulation, his math skills.
Yeah.
Okay, if he's got the puck here, he could size up quicker than anybody else what was going to happen. And so he was always and boy, at that level, it doesn't take much, but a little bit ahead of the game. Amazing. He also married really well, as I recall. I want to say she was a famous. I think her name was Pauline or something. Her name is Pauline or something like that. But she was in a whole bunch of movies and stuff. Yeah. I have one. I mean, obviously, I know more about this, but I do have an interesting hockey story. There was a famous movie called Slapshot with Paul Newman. And it is about a struggling hockey team. And there was these three guys on the team called the Hanson brothers. And they were basically, one step up to insane.
Yeah. Mbop. We all know Mbop, Dan. That's right.
Between my junior and senior year of college, I was a bartender at a place called Village Host. And a team called the San Francisco Shamrocks used to come in. And two of the three players were the actual, two of the guys who came in were the two actual brothers who were the Hanson brothers on there. I don't remember what their last name was. The three of them are still making a living being the Hanson brothers. They show up at autograph things all the time. Any of the listeners who know Slapshot, of course, it was just one of those. It might be the only. I mean, there might be other ice hockey movies. Oh, I'm sure there are the ones where the guy gets hurt and becomes a figure skater and all that. But it is the class. It's like one of the classic 70s sports shows,
Yeah. What about the training side? This question about the training side. What can hockey teach us about combining endurance, speed, strength, power?
Well, my favorite hockey story comes from Mike Boyle. And he was training hockey players one day, and this person came in. There's a lot of know-it-alls in our field, and they corrected. They were correcting Mike on the fact that the hockey players between sets of exercise would sit down. And Mike told me later on, he goes, if you watch the game, hockey players sit down between their lines. If you got the A train goes in. The guys on the B line are sitting, and when it's time for the B line to go in, the C line and the A line are sitting. And it was just like one of those great things that reminded me that this is just this is just a small thing, but I want you to take the essence of what I'm saying is,
Mhm.
if you're a sport, the tradition has you sitting down. You while you train, it's okay to sit down because you kind of almost have to train yourself to jump over that, you know, to jump back into play. And I really, it allowed me to think things through. Like, track meets, I tend to tell my athletes, we don't sit down in our track practice. So I tell my athletes keep doing drills, because when we train, we throw, we drill, we throw, we drill. So that's how you got to recover if you're one of my athletes.
Mhm.
Now, if you're in a situation where you throw and then you sit down on a bench, then do that. But when you watch the Olympics, you'll notice a lot of people sitting down between their throws. But it's interesting. I'd be interested. Is that what you do in your normal training? Because it sounds so strange to say this, but if you lay down after every, like for example, I snatch and then I take a nap, then I snatch and then I take a nap. At at weightlifting meets, I should snatch and take a nap. But unless I'm doing that, I should try to, well, this gonna
Yeah, well, it's the idea. I like this, right? So
perform like I
practice how
probably,
you're going to perform. That's right. And
yeah,
this is
yeah.
this is constantly drilled into the heads of musicians and even for guitar playing. It's like, I can practice in a very, very comfortable way in a very nice seated position and, and in a very artificial environment, but that's not totally conducive to live performance, right? So the idea is I should practice how I'm going to be performing,
Which is standing up,
standing
probably.
up,
Yeah.
unstable, if there's a mistake, like don't stop and work, like keep going. You got to learn to play without a net and all these sorts of things, right? So yeah, I think that's a good general principle for people to keep in mind. And I guess you could say whatever you want of whether the hockey players should be seated, I guess, between their plays, but that's what they do, right? So you might as well practice that way. So good. All right. Yeah. Fun question. I just had to click it because of
Yeah.
I never watch anything hockey. And for the most random reason, I watched a thing on Wayne Gretzky the other day.
Yeah.
So,
And here in Utah, we just picked up a hockey club, and they came up with a beautiful name for it, Utah Hockey Club.
it's amazing. I love that. Yeah.
I mean, who would have thunk, huh?
There's no ambiguity as to what that team does.
I
So
think the rumor is it's going to be the Yetis, but I guess there's a branding or copyright thing on it.
I like Utah hockey. Good. All right. Gary says, has there been any study on the benefits of kettlebell training over barbell strength training to a trainee suffering from neurological disorders? I don't know of one. Maybe.
And the problem is, and who has?
Gary. Yeah, I'm not aware of it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but Gary,
I would say I would be surprised if there was, but
yeah, and Gary, I don't. The problem is you're sliding between fields here. So exercise science hasn't caught up to kettlebells yet. No, I'm not trying to be like, oh, kettlebells are so cutting edge that they haven't caught up. No, it's just that most exercise science things are still being done with machines because it's easier to coordinate 20 what am I saying, 8 volunteers for a study with machine training. It's easier to teach a machine than, and to use a kettlebell study, you'd have to undertake to train all the participants in the kettlebell moves, and that's just not something you'll find in studies. I do know of one kettlebell study. This has got to be 20 years ago because I was in it, and they found out that people's force development really did reflect their backgrounds when it came to learning the swings. Well, my thought was, yeah, but I've only been swinging for, at the time, a little while, where I've been Olympic lifting a long time, even when that study came around. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and then now for on neurological disorders, I think the real, now this is just from me talking to people that I work with MS and Parkinson's, but when it comes to neurological disorders right now, we are making massive strides in with some new drugs, but this hyperbariatric chamber studies that are coming out of Israel might really be game changers when it comes to neurological disorders.
Oh, very cool.
And it's nice to know that we're moving away from a pure pill. The problem in the United States, folks, is the pill is always the answer. And you can, and I'm not at all making fun of Ozempic or anything like that, because I think for a lot of people it's a game changers. But that's how the United States works. And the drug companies already know, they already know this, that the weekly injection model isn't nearly as profitable for American audience as the pill model.
Mm-hmm.
And they're already trying to move to that already.
Right.
So I guess what my big point is that you're expecting a lot from the research to think that they're going to have a comparison between barbells and kettlebells.
Yeah, that's why I said I would be surprised if it's there. Doesn't mean it isn't, but I would
but
be
I'm
surprised.
You can't. I mean, even when something works shockingly well, you can't get funding for the follow-up studies. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like
all right.
Yeah, like the Brad Pillen is doing that really interesting thing with this new. Oh, this is the anabolic fasting protocol. Brad, I love your work.
Yeah, you've been singing his praises for a while now. I got to catch up on his podcast.
He's been discussing on his podcast and in his new book about how we just don't know the upper end of protein synthesis after workout and maintaining. So you work out, you eat a bunch of protein, and then you fast. But there's three things there, and this is what everybody misses: that workout, that protein, and then you don't eat again for a while. And there's this kind of rumor. It's bro science that you can. Well, it's not bro science. It's the opposite of bro science. It's bad observations that you can only assimilate 35 grams of protein. Well, that doesn't fit the evolutionary record. It doesn't fit bro science, and it doesn't fit experience. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden the researchers are saying, yeah, it might be 100, might be 150.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Yeah,
it might be 200.
So that'd be a fun episode someday of to do, like the bro science that has been confirmed. You know, mm-hmm. there's been a number, but that's interesting. I'll have to check out that. Mention Brad's, what is it called one more time? The anabolic fasting protocol. Give Brad a shout out here. Maybe we get him on the podcast.
Fasting protocol, yeah.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Anabolic, yeah. I like Brad's work a lot. He's.
It's good to know he's still in the scene. I remember him reading him like, jeez, it was like 10, 15 years ago with his was it Eat, Stop, Eat, right?
Eat, Stop, Eat. Martin Berkram is that 16-8.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if you read Lean Gains, the new one, there's a kind of a weirdly not heavily veiled attack on Greg O'Gallagher. I remember when the Men's Health. It's funny, Men's Health. It's kind of like he just died, but this guy Michael, what's his last name? Mosley, Dr. Michael Mosley, that British doctor. Men's Health for a while was taking every new thing in fitness and knocking a book out in about 6 weeks.
Yeah, I do remember that trend.
There was one called TNT, which I actually thought was one of the better books Men's Health ever made. And the idea was you would time your meals with your training and your sleep. And I thought that was really a good idea. A week later, they came out with a new book, even more badass, 405. Stop the nonsense. But the book they came out with on IF was the 16-8 protocol, I think it was called. Okay. And it was, folks, I'm going to save you a lot of money for these Men's Health books, okay? Eat and then don't.
That's it.
What's funny because the book's called Eat, Don't. Eat, Stop, Eat, and it's funny.
I mean, that's literally the plan, right?
It's like
eat, stop, eat.
And I will say this: one of the things that I would been shocked 50 years ago if you told 40 years ago if you told me I was going to be a intermittent faster, but I have to tell you, I do feel like. Of course, I grew up in the generation, if there wasn't food in your mouth, you weren't making gains. And I found it really, really, kind of almost exhausting, so many ways, including emotionally. I know I'm not going to start sobbing or anything anything on the cast today.
You can.
But yeah, thank you. But trying to, I mean, trying to every 3 hours, pound down protein and something else, it's exhausting.
It's tough. It takes its toll. It does. People
Yeah.
don't appreciate how tough that is. All right, let's keep moving here. I want to grab this one and we'll come back. Garrick Foster says, my name is Garrick. Hello, Garrick. I'm 27. I work as a pool guy and walk between 6,000 to 10,000 steps a day. I'm curious how I should be working out each week. I do a single kettlebell armor building complex 2 times per week now. So, Dan, the pool guy workout. Everybody wants the pool guy workout. What is it?
This sounds like the start of a movie we're not supposed to talk about. Okay. You're the nice thing about jobs like, I have a couple of postal workers that I know and I work with. And, you're talking about with postal workers, 10 to 18,000 steps a day, not unusual. And yet the body finds ways to still get soft on that, that kind of thing. So the first thing, Gary, even though you're walking a lot of steps every day, just keep in mind the Tom Furnham point. You can't outrun a donut. We have 100 other ways of saying it growing up, but you can't out cardio crappy carbohydrate.
A Costco hot dog.
Yeah, you can't out cardio. I mean, I've told the story years ago how I had a student who worked at a bakery shop, a bagel shop here in town, and she wasn't allowed to tell people how many calories were in the chocolate chip bagel. And then finally one day she said to me, it was 1,100. So, I mean, I don't know how. And the funny thing about that 1,100 calorie bagel, you're going to be hungry in an hour.
In like 30 minutes. Right?
Because of that, boom, instant. So the first thing I always point out when I get a note, Garrett, like this, and that's a great name, by the way, Garrett, is no matter what you're doing, you got to just keep an eye on the nutrition side. And God bless you for getting those 10K in a day. If all you're doing is a single side program, I would do this. And I would like to see you get a third workout, but basically I would also make sure you get those, get a high rep press day in too. And usually when I say high reps, this is the cluster what I say in the book is you do a set of 3, rest, you do a set of 2, rest, do a set of 3, rest, do a set of 5, rest, do a set of 10, rest. I used to never say rest, but people online don't seem to understand that you should rest after every set. But I don't know how you don't know that. And you could probably get those 2, 3, 5, 10, 2, 3, 5, 10. There's 40 reps right there. That's a pretty good workout. If you do it 5 times, it's 100, and that's a hard workout. But I would definitely add in some of those higher rep presses to your single side ABC. Make sure you do some goblet squats in your warm up. And if you're actually doing this, what you say, and you do the single ABC, warm up with some extra goblet squats, do the single bell, and then finish with some. And by the way, after that, you can dump the 2 3s. You can just go 5 10 5 10 5 10 or whatever works out. Just get some high rep presses in, and you will have a body worthy of Pat Flynn. Okay?
If you should be so lucky.
Wait, we got somebody from Denmark here. Now, last week I said hello to my friend from
Sweden. Friend Karsten is here.
And I'm embarrassed I called a Dane a Swede. But in my defense, he lives on an island that was argued by the Danes and the Swedes for a while. So I get that. But talk for showing up.
Yeah, thank you for being here. The podcast is internationally known.
That's right. And I would add a few more things. My favorite thing to do in Denmark is read the menu items and try to, like here in the United States, we say walnut. There it's walnutter. Blueberry is blueberry. It's kind of fun. I'll sit there and I'll figure out what the words on the menu are. It's a fun thing I do when I'm there. I love Denmark. A huge fan. Okay, let's get back to work.
All right,
wait, we got somebody from Germany too. My gosh,
geez, man, we are all over the world. Hello, Jacob from Germany. Hello from Denmark. Yeah, why not? You know, it's just we're on a roll. Just everybody, if you want to share, let us know where in the world you are. It's always fun to see. Just drop a comment. Maybe
Where's
we'll highlight
Carmen?
a few.
Carmen San Diego.
Yes, the old classic. All right, Brigu says, hey, on your latest podcast, Dan, I loved your answer on how to train for the high rocks. As everyone's talking about the high rocks, you know, it's high racks. I'm calling it the high racks.
Okay.
With kettlebells, and he's going to incorporate that into my training. Okay, that's more of a comment, but we'll turn it into a question. Dan, if you don't mind, share that with us now. How do you train people for the high rocks, the high racks, whatever that?
The specific question was about using kettlebells to train for it. But it's a boy, look at all this. I mean, look at all the places we're getting people from.
Canada, Poland, Virginia,
Dobra,
Texas, yeah, all over the place. Very cool, very cool.
Thanks. That's
got any fellow Wisconsinites here? Atlanta.
Wayne, what part of Canada are you from? So my dad, being from the area, Canada always had an R behind it. So Canada, Nasser, you know, that's where they send the plane. Nasser. But if a word had an R at the end, you weren't legally allowed. So Costa, Nasser, Canada. You know, that was my dad's accent. Yeah. So basically, my argument was, you should find a loop where you put your kettlebells down, and you walk, jog, run, sprint a loop, do a kettlebell series, a kettlebell front squats, repeat the loop, do the exercise, repeat the loop. That's the summary. I'm certainly no expert on this sport because I didn't in the podcast just a few weeks ago. I said it wasn't in America yet, and then I got a whole bunch of people said it. Yes, it is. But it was interesting because it's very recent that it's even come to the States, and it'll be an overdone thing real quick, and people get hurt. There's a Reddit thread where the person is talking about the armor building complex, and he says it's so strange because after all these years of being hurt and disappointed, unmotivated, getting broken in CrossFit, he's surprised how small the volume is in the armor building formula. And I just want to, I can't decide hug or strangle that response because it's like, right. So you were constantly breaking yourself.
You could strangle it with a hug. That's always
yes. And now you're doing something that doesn't hurt you and keeps you coming back. And that's wrong. You please listen to your own words.
Okay. Great. Okay. So yes, good luck with the high racks thing. That's good. All right, let me scroll back up here. Find some. Wow, lots of.
Yeah, this is impressive.
All over the place.
Oh my God,
Wayne is about 80. He's about 45 miles from Detroit. Wayne, I used to live in a small town called Williamston, Michigan, and I lived in another small town called Whitmore Lake, Michigan. If anybody's familiar with those places, I now hail in the wonderful village of Wisconsin.
Now, isn't it true that a whole bunch of Canada is south of Detroit? Isn't that weird little? There's that weird little
glove, and
there's that weird little dip where you go south to go to Canada, and in Canada you go north to go to the United States. It's just it's kind of like that. Yeah, there's that little blurb there.
Steven says, "What are a pair of 40-kilogram kettlebells good for?" Well, first thing that comes to mind here would be like front squats, something like that, right, Dan?
Well,
I mean, for you, that's good for warming up. That's
a light bell like that. I would say, bottoms up Turkish get-ups.
Stack them.
Stacked. I thought that was a given. No, I do. I mean, it depends on what you do. I mean, here in my gym, we don't have a 40. We have double 36s and then a 48. I mean, obviously, I tell you one thing. If you're doing double 40s on the kettlebell front squat, your inner tube, your anaconda strength is just.
You will be able to hug strangle anything.
Yeah,
you want, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the 40. Because of the ABC, the armor building formula book I wrote, I realized that most people, the original 3 kettlebells. We discussed this before, and I'm answering your question, Steve, if you don't mind. I know I'm bouncing around a little bit, but the original 3 kettlebells were the 16, the 24, and the 32. And that was it. And it was kind of what I realized is when you get to jump from the 16 to the 24, Most people have to do about 14 or 15 reps with the 16 to be able to press the 24. This is just that one rep max craziness. Okay, to press the 32 with, you need to be able to probably press the 24 for 10. Okay, and that was not. It's a nice thing for me to say out loud. And I'm using Boyd Epley's one rep max numbers on that, just to help walk you through this a little bit. Okay, well, so when you get to a weight like the 40, you know, you got this fairly big bell. I mean, for my American audience, and that's just about it on the planet now, it's 88 pounds, which 88 pounds is a solid weight, but it's a single kettlebell, which means you have to be able to clean it, you have to be able to rack it, you have to be able to then do something with it. And that, to be honest with you, it kind of becomes the issue. I think if you can press the 40, good for you. I mean, it's a good weight. I wouldn't suggest snatching it. When the snatch was the biggest thing in the kettlebell world, the people who did the heavy beyond, and I'm gonna keep it low. I'm gonna say 24. Once you get above the 24, a lot of people start getting issues with it because all you need is one lousy rep, and because of the force, the physics, and the load, it tended to hurt people. Now, again, I have no issues with getting hurt in competition. It's part of the game. But if you're just out there having fun and you get jacked up, it's hard to, So
Right.
I know I've all over the place. I didn't.
No, that's good. That's good. All right. Pete says, "Hi, gents. I have a 6-month-old baby and get a bicep issue from carrying her like a burning pump that leads to weakness. I regularly do chin-ups, but is my bicep weak? Should I add curls?" Yeah, I got a little experience with this. And it goes to show, look, strength is like hyper specific, man. I don't care how good you are at pull-ups or weighted pull-ups. I'm good at that stuff. This is mom strength, right? Like my wife, Christine, can just hold like our 12-year-old in that static isometric hold. No problem. Why? Because she does it all the time, all day long, right? With all the kids. And then like she'll ask me to, take a turn, and I'm like, how do you do that? That gets very tiring very quick. And the answer is because she does it all the time, right? There's just a specific type of demand there of just being in that sort of static isometric position. So if you want to get stronger at it, you got to do it, right? That's it. The only thing I'll say is just be careful, especially with the kids. It hasn't happened to me, but it has happened to my wife, where she's given herself, various issues, tendonitis and stuff like that, just by being in those positions for so long. So you just want to be a little bit, make sure you're just switching things up, taking some rest, because those, especially as they get bigger and bigger, man, they will get you. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it is actually, it was an observation I made at Disneyland that actually I think made me a better strength coach when it comes to working with my female athletes. You'll notice most men will put their kids up on their shoulders and carry them around like this, because I started noticing it because I was doing it. Moms will carry here. So when you look at people doing, and that's why I hate it. I have a loaded carry called the rack carry. We hold it here like this. I hate it. I can wait or walk for days. I can suitcase carry to the moon and back. 3 seconds on the rack walk, and I'm like, oh,
good night. Yeah.
And it really is. And yet, when I work with women here at the gym, or my athletes, their rack carry, they don't even need it. It's just like, now what? So there is a difference in the way men and women are structured that I think is hard to ignore. And I also like the idea, maybe it could be that there is some huge anatomical differences, and there are, but it also could be that women are just better at carrying in this position. But you're right. But man, if your arms are starting to go, take care of that. I think your baby's more important than your chin-ups, but so I would back off the chin-ups until little Beauregard Patrick.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Jimmy has a question for you, Dan. What were the changes you made for training from age 60 to 67? Anything significant?
Well, I don't know. This is going to sound like I'm all full of myself, but I think I'm a bit of an outlier. Um, Not many 67-year-olds Olympic lift. I'll just say that first
This is
off.
true. This is true.
Not in my 60s, I've been the only person at a Highland Games to flip the big caber. So I mean, those two things alone. Um, I, I have. I mean, there's so many. Okay, there's so many changes. But Jimmy, this is a good question. So, all right. First off, I have noticed that I need to spend more time on little things that are easy to forget. Like there's a thing called butt wink. It probably is more of an issue. I'm rubbing my belly as I'm telling you this. It's more probably an issue of reflexive strength. I've noticed I have to work a little harder making sure so that's why I do those all that Tim Anderson original strength work to remind myself to be where it should be. Um, I noticed that well, obviously because of the surgeries and all the stuff in my life, I am more impacted by changes in weather. So for me, I have to be a little bit smarter about making sure on a day like today, I got to get out there earlier with more clothes on with the snowstorm, okay? Because it will affect my joints more. I've noticed that I do have more bar fear than I used to have. I need to take a lot more warm ups than I used. Not even warm ups. I mean, a lot. Like if I'm doing a set of three with some front squat in the 200s, I might take more singles just to kind of and I'm making that noise. You know, it's not good enough. Um, when it comes to body composition, I got to tell you, man, keeping the waistline, keeping that waistline in check is, is a daily check in because the waistline will go crazy on you very quickly, at my age. So mo- every single thing needs to be dialed in a little bit smarter as you age. Uh, how do I combat it? I do a daily sauna. Okay. I strive for great night's sleep every night. I go to bed early. I do all the magic stuff.
Yeah.
I sauna every day. I try to walk every day. I can't believe I said try because it's so easy to do it, but it just gets out of your hands sometimes. The daily fast is very important to me. Um, I really up the amount of protein I eat now versus my youth. And it's funny because I was a big protein eater, but we have such better protein products now. It's
Yeah.
easier. The protein I had as a kid, that soy based Hoffman, God, it was just a fart maker 1000, man. The 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 fart maker 5000. Oh God, those
Great.
soy based and they would never dissolve, and so
Uh-huh.
you were getting, you'd be sitting there, unchunking the soy powder out of your.
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm.
God, so yeah, so the sleep, the fasting, the better protein sources. I'm a lot smarter about. I eat a lot of berries every day. This little boutique Costco has these frozen berries that I use. I mean, literally every single day.
Yeah.
Just you have to it's not you're not allowed to ignore the big things anymore. Does that make sense to you?
No, it does. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
you got to be a little. You can't just I'll sleep on the weekend. You can't do that anymore. But if I was to say the huge changes, and if you don't mind me rambling a little bit longer, the the real the real I'm taking fasting seriously. Fasting is fasting now. I don't eat, obviously. I take the sauna very seriously. I take my protein intake very seriously. Um, I'm my nutrition person told me 150 grams a day, and I'm like, and I know to everybody it sounds pretty simple, but getting 150 grams day in day out it can be. I'm not going to say it's a chore. I mean, I'm drinking protein powder with berries. It's not exactly, oh, well, I'm a hero, but it's hard. I mean, not hard, but it's the consistency trumps the randomness. Yeah.
Awake, good. Awaken Zen says, "Hey, what are your thoughts on weighted plate exercises? Just a plate, no barbell." Dan, do you ever?
Well, I don't do them, but
yeah, neither do I.
But I don't. There was a time where every thrower I knew took the big 45 and then did that lunge sweep like this, and every thrower I knew who did that has a bad back. So I know that the plate curl is really instructive about how the bicep actually works. So if you grab the 45 and you do curl, you really learn a lot about how, because you really want to you really want to, that's why I've always thought dumbbell curls were kind of, and even dumbbell tricep extensions were kind of better, with better being this nebulous. Somebody just pull up to my house. This,
greetings.
This nebulous idea of, but the nice thing about dumbbells is that it allows this to happen. For those of you listening, I'm turning my wrist as I do this imaginary curl. With the tricep extension, you can turn your wrist,
right?
Keep things lined up correctly. With the plate, you can't, and I think it's informative just to try it out. I don't know many plate exercises because there is. My favorite plate exercise growing up was the hyperextension. We had the Dick Notmeyer had these big, huge blue plates. These were called blue plate specials after the old diner, and they were 102.5. And when you were doing hyperextensions and he'd pile those on, it was eye-opening. I tell you that.
Yeah. Good. All right, let's take one or two more here. Let's see here. Jacob has a simple question. He says, "Hey, for the kettlebell clean and press, what is the breathing pattern? Do you inhale on the hinge, exhale at the top? What are the other nuances? How important is it?" Yeah, talk us through breathing.
No, I'm not doing that. You do it.
Oh, well, it's pretty standard, right? I think make sure your breath is, so I guess things are a little bit reversed sometimes because you got to make sure you want your breath kind of loaded going into the press.
Yeah.
But I always sniff the air in as I'm coming into the rack, and then you exhale on the way up, but always retain a little bit of breath. What do I do on the way down? It's funny. Sometimes you've been doing these things for so many years.
Yeah,
it's like playing guitar, and it's like, well, what am I doing? I'm doing it, but what am I doing here? And then on the way down, I think on the way down, I'm letting out a little bit of breath. Then I'm same thing with the clean, and then re-sniffing back in. So what is that pattern?
So at the certs, Jacob, we have a thing called, I put it on the board. It's called breathing, and it's spelled TSSSSSST T. And it's more of a interesting at certs. I often don't demonstrate proper breathing because I want them to realize that, I mean, you also can make big lifts with any breathing method.
This is true.
And I think sometimes, especially at certs, we get so caught up in, breathing is a superpower. It's kind of a cool thing. It's one of the few things you can do with your body without thinking about it, or focusing on it. So I can control my blood pressure simply by thinking about it, and my pancreas. I'm joking, of course. So as you're here at the rack to drive it to the top, it should be a bit of a like that, but that's that high pressured breathing, and done correctly, it can make you stronger. Mm-hmm. Though, you can also be strong with just, sometimes I do diaphragm breathing at certs just to show that being stiff is more than just controlling your breath.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, sometimes when you're doing these more complex movements, some of the breathing patterns reverse a little bit depending on when you want to be loaded with the breath versus not. Right.
I think the beauty of doing those one of my things in Mass Made Simple is I expect to be able to squat your body weight. So your body weight's on your back. I expect to be able to squat it for 50 reps. So basically 225 on your back for 50. Okay. Well, what's the breathing pattern when you get plus 30? Well, it's well, it's not a very scientific breathing pattern, but you're trying to survive. Yeah. So I'm good with any breathing pattern. But on the platform, you got to figure that out. So one of the things I teach with my discus throwers, we actually talk about breathing. So if someone ever asks you if you'll breathe in or breathe out as you start, you'll have an answer. Because if you think about it, you just lost about 300 feet on your throw.
Yeah. And for anything with performance, you just want to be consistent, right?
Which is, by the way, why I like to talk to people in other arts, like opera singers and guitar players and others, because if you talk to an opera singer, their instrument, which is basically their diaphragm is their instrument, they have really insightful ideas about how to work with that. It's fascinating, really.
Yeah, good. All right, last one here. We'll finish with Marco. He says, how would Dan program the goblet squat drill for squats in training in a few weeks? Not sure I get the last part of that, but
I'm not sure what goblet squat drill you mean. The one with the overhead squat? Is that the one you mean? Or because if it is, then I start off with sets of 8, and as load goes up, we go to sets of 5. In the workouts, I used to always say do sets of 8, but then I realized it was really hard.
Yeah.
So anytime I find something really hard, I make up some excuse to make it easier. So,
that's good. No, that's a good answer.
No, everyone think I'm joking, except we all know what I just said is the most true thing I've said this morning.
That's awesome. All right, Dan, before we say goodbye, you got that book coming out again soon. Tell us one more time about that, and that'd be good.
Kettlebell Workout Companion, and
great simple name. It's like the hockey club, right? Just right.
And it should be it's gonna be only available on Amazon. And I'm sorry. Yeah, these I'm doing my best to get billionaires richer because
they need it.
Sure. Yeah, they need it, and so they rip off little authors like me really harshly, so that they can buy newspapers and all that. Things are good. It is I'm going to the dentist today. 3 times a year I go to the dentist, and my health is good. My
good
things are going. Patrick, I got a text message from someone I care for just before we went on today, and I haven't had a chance to even respond, but you've been with me during these last 5 years, and gentle listeners, you all have too. And it is just glorious to start to turn to being happy and things like that.
We love to hear it, Dan. Really do.
And one other thing I want to share before I go, about a year ago, I replaced all my heaters and air conditioners, and I bought a thing called a heat pump. Okay. My energy bill, like my gas bill, is now. Remember, I live. Not only do I live in a desert, but it's a high desert, so it's snowing. I'm using 1% of the gas I used last year.
Oh, how about that? I'm going to look into this.
Pump and this heat pump thing, I got to tell you, folks, if you live in an area that heat pumps work, it is stunning to have such a comfortable house and not use gas. It pulls the heat out of the air out there, and it's going to even work today because and once it hits a certain, it stops. But I'm just.
So you're the reason it's snowing. You took all the heat out of the air.
That's it's my fault. Global warming
is Dan John's heat pump.
The fact that Florida is going to be underwater soon, you can blame me.
It's the heat pump.
Hey, what is this? Am I losing hair here?
No, it's the lighting.
Is it the light? I guess so. Let me
see. Good stuff, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Dan, as always, for your wisdom. Fun time. We'll catch you all.
Fun time. Love you, man.
See you guys later. Hit subscribe, like,